No Bill Bradston. No more sugar today. Good evening, Danvers, and welcome to the December 6th Select Board hearing. Matt, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have approval of the minutes of November 15th, please?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion, changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none, thank you. New public business. If anybody is here with business that's not on the agenda, now's the time to raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll go right to number 3. The board will recognize graduates of the 2022 Citizens Academy. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Assistant Town Manager Jen Breaker is making her way to the microphone, and we are joined tonight by quite a few of our graduates, and I would turn it directly over to Jen.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jen Breaker. I'm the Assistant Town Manager, and I'm very excited to be here tonight to recognize our 3rd class of graduating Citizens Academy cadets. We've prepared a brief PowerPoint to share some of the highlights of this year's work the graduating cadets have completed. Citizens Academy was developed as a way for residents to take a deep dive into their local government. Typically, we have done a 10-week program. This year, we added an extra week, making the program an 11-week up-close view of Danvers municipal government. Participants, who we kindly refer to as cadets, explored various departments through a variety of classes and interactive activities. We accepted applications over the summer, and in early September, we accepted 18 cadets into the program. In this class, we have cadets that have lived in Danvers from approximately 31 years to 6 months. This makes the class our youngest class, both on the shortest and the longest length people have lived in Danvers. Wow. Last year's class, the longest was 74 years. The class is comprised of a data analyst, a library consultant, an insurance broker, a teacher, a few retirees, someone who's self-employed, and so much more. Starting on September 15th and going through December 1st, the Academy was held on Thursday evenings from 6 to 8:30 in several locations around Danvers. Before we dive into what the cadets did each week, I must thank the many Town of Danvers team members who make the Academy possible. This includes the folks who presented, people who worked on the presentations and activities, people who helped set up each week, cleared garage bays, ordered pizza, and made sure the Academy was a huge success. Additionally, I'd like to thank Ann Freitas, who was key in helping me organize and prepare for the program, and she made sure the pizza got ordered every week. Week 1, Town Government Overview. On September 15th, the cadets joined staff right here in the Toomey Room for their first night of Citizens Academy. Welcome bags awaited them on their chairs. Inside the bags were binders, which contained the PowerPoint for each week, and supporting material, a budget book, an annual town report, recycling and trash information, and some swag from the various departments. Cadets were welcomed by Select Board Chair Bennett, and then heard a general town government overview from the town manager. They also heard about the work the Finance Committee does, a town meeting overview by town moderator Pat Frazier, and to close out the night, the cadets learned all about elections in the town clerk's office. For the second week, the cadets stayed in the Toomey Room, and they heard from the Finance Division. Assessing, Accounting, Treasurer Collector, and the Retirement Office discussed the work they do to support the finances of the town. The Finance Director led the cadets through a budget activity where cadets had to balance a budget, deciding and justifying where to make cuts. This may surprise you, but almost all of the cadets said they loved the budgeting activity and it helped them understand the budgeting process better. The third week took the cadets to the fire department headquarters, where they heard from Chief Amaral, Deputy Barry, and the fire prevention officers on all aspects of the department, including technology used to assist the department in their daily duties. They went on a tour. They got to see the extrication equipment in use, the tower truck in full reach. One cadet said they were impressed with the amount of work outside of fighting fires the department does. They weren't aware of all of the department was responsible for beyond fires, and they were impressed by the grant secured by the department for equipment and personnel. For weeks 4 and 5, we headed to Hobart Street to hear from the divisions in Public Works. In the first week, we heard from forestry, buildings, equipment, streets, and trash and recycling. During that week, there was a fun pop-up quiz that about what can and cannot be recycled, discussion on trees in Danvers and how they can interfere with sidewalks, and the cadets heard from the building division on maintenance, all while sitting in the Hobart Street garage surrounded by equipment and tools. In week 5, civil engineering shared with the cadets the work they do to support town departments, committees, and residents. They also challenged cadets to build a water tower, an activity that's become a favorite. Additionally, the cadets learned about the important work the water and sewer divisions complete and how the business office supports all divisions. The Bartha kids also crashed that night.
Not literally.
We continued to move through the town and onto the 5th week of the program, heading to Endicott Park to hear from Recreation and Library. To start the night, the cadets took a hayride around the park, led by the Endicott Park Rangers. And then they encountered their first very interactive night. There was an engagement activity with the library, with the fun club team. They sang the Hokey Pokey, they participated in a group reading with the library team, and they played with Legos. They also learned, in between all of the fun, about the certifications needed for the staff in the recreation department and the role the library trustees plays for the department. On October 27th, the cadets heard from Inspectional Services and the Planning and Economic Development team. The building commissioner chatted with us about rules and regulations, laws, and zoning the office must follow, and we also learned a lot about fences. Planning was ready to get the cadets thinking. After discussing the work of the office and helping the cadets learn more about zoning, they let the cadets loose to rezone Endicott Street. Cadets were provided with a map of the area, Post-it notes that were color-coded for different types of zoning, and worked as a team to develop what they would want to see in that area. The planning department took the maps back to the office as future inspiration. Ideas included green space, parking garages, senior living, and so much more. For week 8, Chief Lovell welcomed the cadets and took them on a tour of the police department and dispatch center. It was followed by an overview of the department that included some statistics and community needs that the department addresses. Officers and detectives covered the Criminal Investigations Division, how they work to solve crimes committed in Danvers and other places. Cadets saw photos from actual crime scenes, and the officers walked them through the details. The chief then shared about the Community Services Division and the work and challenges the division encounters, including various programs they offer for Danvers Public Schools. And finally, the cadets got to hear from the department's mental health clinician. They learned about how this position not only engages with the department, but also the community. Set up in a very small room at the senior center because Concom took over another space, the cadets heard from the Veteran Services Officer on the programs of the division and the resources available to Danvers veterans and their families. The senior center staff spoke about the programs and services they provide and how they're funded. To end the night, the cadets heard from public health. One cadet said they were very impressed by the services offered by the senior center and veterans and said that she had no idea about all the services available, and it seems our seniors are very lucky. Another cadet said, "Holy moly, public health does a ton." For week 10, the cadets headed to another garage bay, the electric department. The IT department kicked off the night and covered the work they do to maintain the Danvers municipal technology, how many emails we send and receive, and recent and future projects. The electric division discussed our power portfolio, simplified the power grid, and discussed energy conservation and efficiency program. They finished the night with a power safety demonstration. For the final week of the academy, the cadets headed over to the Danvers High School to learn about the Danvers Public Schools. They were greeted by Acting Superintendent Mary Warmers. An overview of the district started the presentation. It included cost per pupil, strategic plans, student engagement, and more. The cadets then heard from the curriculum directors from each of the school levels. They challenged us to many activities. From the elementary school, we reviewed reading books and learning how students sounds out letters. For the high school level, we were joined by two amazing high school students who led us through a group activity. Cadets had to sit back to back, one cadet looking at a picture on the wall, describing it to the other cadet without using very descriptive words. For example, they had to draw an ice cream cone, and they used words like triangle, waves. It was very interesting to see the photos or the drawings that came out. I was going to include them, but decided not to. And to close out the night, the middle school curriculum director got everyone in a circle to show a student engagement session. They read a poem together, and then she asked cadets to share why they live in, what they like about Danvers. Cadets spoke about the natural resources available, including the waterfront, the rail trail, access to highways, and convenience to other areas of Massachusetts and New England, and that they enjoyed the great community we had here in Danvers. It was the perfect way to close out the academy session. And that brings us to tonight. The graduating cadets have worked hard. They've showed up every Thursday. They've asked great questions, engaged in discussion and group work, including the hokey pokey. They made us proud to serve them and the Danvers community. Before we recognize the graduating cadets by calling them up to receive their certificate, I'd be happy to take any questions the board has.
Thank you, Jen. Congratulations, cadets, for going through that intensive training and education. David, any comments, questions?
No questions, Dan, but I want to comment once again, what a superb idea this is and was and continues to be. I think that the work that Jen puts in and the commitment that the people make for town, this is so healthy for the town of Danvers. I wish that every of the 371 cities and towns in Massachusetts could have a similar program so that the divide between citizens sometime and government, which is authority. I mean, fundamentally, I don't know, in the DNA of people, there is a fear of authority until it is known. And this is the most wonderful way to get government to be known to people, to make it just a wonderful thing. And congratulations once again to you, Jen, for pulling this off. And nice to have everybody here tonight. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to commend all of you for making an 11-week commitment to learn about how the town operates. I would urge you to share what you've learned with your friends and neighbors. To ensure that the town is well-run and it works efficiently and that your tax dollars are being spent appropriately. So again, congratulations on making it through the course.
Thank you. Maureen?
I think it's a great program. Congratulations, a lot of familiar faces. Thank you.
Gardner?
Thank you. I too want to commend Jen for the effort she puts into this and leadership for the program. This is the third one, and I'm always interested to hear if people want to share what was it that surprised them most that they learned about town government that they may not have known going into this. It would be interesting to maybe for the next class have a survey. It'd be interesting to find out because we sit here as very active participants in town government, and often we don't see the forest for the trees. And maybe it's an opportunity to understand what we should highlight more, whether it be the board or a department or some other function of government that people in the class really were surprised to learn about or surprised to see. We want the rest of the citizens to know now what you know, so that they have clarity on who to contact or who to follow up with if there's any issues or concerns or questions. And so I'm very happy that people have taken the time out of their lives to learn more about their government. And thank you very much.
Thank you. And to follow up on that idea, Garner, do you take a survey afterwards from the graduates of what struck out to them the most?
We do weekly comment cards where the cadets can let us know what they enjoyed most, what they wish we talked about, and then general comments as well. So every week they provide
So you
us
do
with
it
feedback.
ongoing? Okay,
Yes.
great, thank you.
And maybe it's what we can publicize more. Maybe that's the question. As much as what surprised you, but what do you think we should publicize more as a town to the rest of our citizens?
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
a couple thoughts I wanted to share as well. The amount of time that the cadets volunteer to do this program, I was just doing the math. You can earn a graduate certificate with less hours invested. And in all seriousness, I mean, we have, with this class, we're close to 60 residents walking around now with graduate level certificates in local government. And to Board Member Duggan's point, we've seen this where graduates from this program on social media will direct people to the right information, because we all know that there's a lot of misinformation on social media, and it's amazing to see the fruits of the labor pay dividends in that way, where we have folks who now know. They've met staff, they've sat through the presentations. And I think with this class, one of the things that really stuck out to me, we do the weekly comment cards. I like to take a look at the feedback, and one of the things that really stuck out from week to week was this class commending the professionalism and engagement of the town employees who showed up and made the presentations and prepared the materials. That was cool to see, because I think I had mentioned to this board before, when Jen was pulling this program together and we were pitching the idea internally, we had a lot of groans and employees saying, I already work so many hours and now I have to come and do this dog and pony show. And after the first class, a lot of them really enjoyed it because of the engagement with residents. If you're in the streets division, typically your engagement with a resident is someone who's unhappy chasing you down in your truck to complain about curbing or a pothole or something like that. And here they get a chance to really show what they do. And so it's been a great program. I was at a board of directors meeting a couple of months ago for the MMA talking about this, and I had 2 mayors come and want to know more about what we're doing. And we didn't invent this. I mean, we took this idea and generally improved upon a model that we saw elsewhere. But to your point, David, I don't know that we'll hit all 351, but I think a lot of communities are recognizing the power in programs like this. So, thank you.
I'd like to ask the chair and the town manager to come up to help me hand out certificates, please.
I'm going to read names, and I'm going to say this is a particularly easy class in terms of last names. There were only 2 that I had questions about, and if I happen to get one of those wrong, I guess that says more about
But I
me
still
than
passed it off to
you
him.
did. Yeah. So these are in alphabetical order. They're not in any. It has nothing to do with grading or grade point averages or anything like that. But first is Mark Astolfi. Next is Matthew Brown, who I do not think is here tonight. We can clap for him anyway. Ellen Duran. Congratulations. Chrissy Farr. Jane Fuller, who I do not think is here. Oh, we'll clap for her. Diana Giacalone. Mary Haight. Jean Hartnett. Kyle Hopkins. Jennifer Mullen. Andrew Mushrush, I do not see. Nick Navin, who is our assistant treasurer collector and audited the program. He's a recent resident of Danvers and was very interested, so he, after work, came to participate every week in the program. Rhonda Peroni. Charlene Smith. Terry Smith. No. And Lorraine Veal.
So you're welcome to stay and watch the board in action the rest of the night. The board will vote to accept a gift in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, 53A. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You received in your packets an email from Carla King, President of the Friends of the Danvers Dog Park, and they would like to donate $4,000 for the installation of a wooden gazebo on the small dog side of the dog park to provide some shade for the dog owners on that side of the park.
Any questions, Maureen?
No, I think
Comments?
it's a great idea. Thank you.
Gardner?
No questions. I'm very supportive.
Matt?
Oh, yes, this is, will be located inside the fenced area?
I believe that is the case, yes.
All right, no other questions?
David?
Thank you, Dan. I just want to applaud Carla King and the other people that over the course now, I think, of 6 or 7 years have devoted, talk about attention and commitment, not just to the dogs, but the dog owners like us, and the entire town. You've done such a beautiful job of encouraging people to take part and then constantly improving it and just keeping us all on our toes. So Carla and the rest of you wonderful people, thank you so much.
Thank you. What's the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the gift with the appropriate letter of thanks.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The board will meet 2 candidates for appointment to the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're joined tonight by our Director of Equity and Inclusion, as well as 2 candidates for the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee to fill 2 vacancies that occurred in the past year. And I would turn it over to our director if she'd like to introduce candidates.
So I'm actually going to turn it over to the Vice Chair of the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, Kristen Perkins.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
Thank you. So we're so excited to announce 2 appointments tonight that we hope you'll agree with. The first is Shilpa, the second is Johan, and we would welcome them to share a little bit about themselves. Dutriche, Jasmine, and myself had an opportunity to get to know them more and learn more about how they contribute to our town and how they could contribute to our committee. And we are very supportive of the work that they will do if accepted. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Would the candidates like to come forth individually and say a few words? Thank you. It's an opportunity to introduce yourself to the community and say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to do this work?
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Johan Hunter. Some of you, thank you. Here I am.
Spotlight.
Some of you may remember me from my run for school committee. I've been a resident of Danvers now 7 years. The time has flown. Mom of 3 children, and happy to be here and happy to do the work of just equality and serving as a resource in any regard for the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, and showing folks that our town really does have great people and we really do good work, and unfortunately some stories that were negative overshadowed that. So we're here to really do that good work and continue on with that positive reputation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shilpa Jacoby. I've lived in Danvers for about 6 years now. I'm the assistant head of reference at the Danvers Public Library, and I have 2 kids in the middle school here. I'm really passionate about making our town be more inclusive and accepting of those who are different. It's a great town to live in. We have so many great facilities, and I just want to be a part of that positive change.
Thank you. Thank you. David, as liaison to this committee, would you like to say a few words?
No, thank you, Dan, except to say, I'm glad Jasmine is here tonight and Kristen is here tonight. And I'll tell you, they keep us all working. We got things and assignments and workshops to do. So they put in wonderful time. We have wonderful new members. I think that you'll enjoy the people that are on the commission, and keep your sneakers on, because we'll have to keep moving. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Matt?
I have some questions for each applicant. So maybe Johan, you could go to the mic and I could ask you several questions. So you're familiar with the committee? Have you, you attend on a regular basis?
I do not attend on a regular basis. I have been on the committee on Zoom, and I have been on the committee in person twice, for once when the superintendent was presenting, and the other instance was after, that was actually on Zoom, when we were just going over some of the issues with the hockey incident.
Okay. And then I see in your application here for the talent pool that you're a member of the North Shore AACP and WACP.
I am not a member, but I was on the ad hoc committee after the hockey incident.
Okay, so specifically back in February and March of this year, when when that group issued a report, and were you involved in that process?
I was on the ad hoc committee, which meets to discuss things about the hockey incident, but I did not issue the report.
Okay, so I think what I'm getting at is in that time frame, that the group, the NAACP of the North Shore, they contacted all the media outlets in Boston. The Boston Globe ran a considerable an article, an in-depth article.
They did.
There was a lot of publicity. I think it painted Danvers in a negative light. Each and every resident was kind of portrayed to the people of Massachusetts as being a racist and bigoted town. And I think it put everyone in a bad light. And I got the impression that the residents were just collateral damage in order to get that report and to use it as leverage to force the town to accept all the recommendations. So were you part of that process, or were you in favor of that
Matt,
approach?
I'm going to ask you to stop there. Oh, John, you don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Matt. Gardner?
Thank you. I have no questions. I've had interactions with both of our candidates, very pleasant. I frequent the library, and so I can, especially in the research, so I'm very happy that you've offered your time to support the town. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maureen?
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's a very important position for both of you. Thank you for volunteering. It does take a lot of time and effort, And I just want to say thank you for coming up and answering some of our questions.
Thank you.
So thank you for volunteering. Thank you for coming here tonight so that we get to meet you and the people at home get to meet you a little bit more. And what is the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the recommendation for appointment to the committee as presented.
Second.
And that would be for both candidates.
For both candidates.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Congratulations. Look forward to you again coming before us at some point in time with the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee and their reports.
Awesome. Thank you.
The board will consider renewal of a license for public access across town property on Parkers Island. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You received in your packets tonight a copy of a access agreement that dates back to 1989. It has been approved, I believe, every 5 years since, including 2017. It is a 5-year agreement, access agreement, which is due for renewal. I believe we are joined tonight by representatives from Danvers Port. But the board has jurisdiction over this particular piece of property. And again, it has been renewed every 5 years since 1989, and so it's before the board tonight for discussion and possibly dialogue with the applicants.
Thank you. I would ask the applicant to step up and introduce himself and say a few words.
I'm Dan DiLorenzo from Danversport, and Joe DiLorenzo, my son.
Welcome.
So,
Thank you.
this, every 5 years, we're up for renewal, and we're here tonight to do that.
So, has anything changed in the last 5 years since we've agreed to this?
No, not really, anything.
Okay. So pretty much it's the same document as before, and just for public knowledge, 3 members of this current board signed the agreement back in 2017, and I don't think we had any issues at that time. Mr. Town Manager, is this a formality only, or is this something that is important, which I think it is?
It certainly is important to the applicant. Improvements were made to the property for the benefit of the going interest on the property. From the town's perspective, if there's no reason not to renew. They've been good stewards of the property. It's a large operation. There have been issues from time to time, but they've always been resolved amicably with town staff. So certainly staff is supportive of renewal of this agreement.
Will the agreement have to be re-recorded at the Registry of Deeds?
I believe that has been the case each time it has been renewed, but I would consult with counsel on that.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Gardner?
No, I think that the yacht club, Danversport, as it's now referred to, has been a good neighbor, has tried to address all questions and issues that come before them, and they've been maintaining the road and access and the property to the standards that the town would want, so I'm supportive.
Very good. Maureen?
Can I ask, why is it 5 years? Why can't it be longer? Why is it every 5?
Well, state law says you can only enter agreement for 3 years. It could be 3 years.
Could be 3, okay.
Could be 3.
Just to make them come back and forth. I mean, they're great property owners. They keep a good job keeping up the property and very generous to our town, so I'm all for it.
Thank you. David?
Nothing, Dan, just to say is that I've known the family, of course, as long as I've known myself, and they employ all kinds of people. The place is always neat, including the boat facilities there, and they do a wonderful job of management, and they are a signature property, even though it's privately owned, a signature property for the town. Nothing else.
Thank you. Matt?
Just a couple of questions. So is there a quid pro quo for this, for the town providing this easement? What does the town receive in return?
So the access driveway going into our property, it is partially owned by the town and partially owned by Danversport, so that when we came upon this agreement, the town is actually able to use the portion of the land that we own to get access to where the art center is, the art building there, formerly the Williams School. So if you look at the property line, the driveway is shared by both the town and Danvers Board.
Okay. And that allows residents to get down to that little park area on the left side across from the
Correct.
storage facility?
Yeah, the town, that's open for residents of the town for the
Yeah,
summer.
But there are some restrictions, right, like something dusk, dawn to dusk, and only like until September or something
Yeah,
during the
there
summer
are.
months?
Correct.
I've had several town meeting members from Precinct 3 share some concerns about that facility, the storage of boats in what might not be considered to be appropriate areas, fire lanes. And also there was some clear cutting behind the field there at the old Williams School, where your property abuts. There was some, it looked like there was some clear cutting on town property. I don't know if it was to create some additional boat storage area. Can you kind of speak to that?
That's been restored.
Has it been restored?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Did everybody have a chance to speak? Thank you. What's the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the 5-year renewal of this license for the
Second.
development of the driveway.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight. The board will consider the findings of fact and recommended disposition of the hearing officer, Police Chief James Lovell, as it relates to an alleged nuisance or dangerous dog. Chief?
Good afternoon. A few updates for you. I spoke with both parties involved. Mr. Mimo received a copy of the report. He was satisfied. He has received compensation for the veterinarian bills, and he had no interest in speaking tonight, so he will not be here. Also spoke to Ms. Langlis Emiland as well. She advised me that late over the summertime, her canine Aragon was diagnosed with cancer. In fact, she passed away in late September. So he's no longer with us, and kind of.
Mr. Chairman, I move no action.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Any comments on this side? We have a motion for no action. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
before, I want to thank the chief for his diligence in the matter and the thoughtfulness he put into this. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I might just add to that, it seemed to be very labor-intensive, almost as if it was some type of a criminal case that required quite a number of man-hours to kind of resolve this, or at least kind of reach this conclusion. It's unfortunate that that the chief was required to spend so much time on this. So hopefully you won't have to do this anytime soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay. The board is requested to renew liquor licenses for the calendar year 2023 as presented. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to turn the microphone over momentarily to the town clerk, but you did receive in your packets a listing of the license for renewal and also a memorandum from the town clerk to this board regarding one of the licenses. But I would defer to Kathy Ellsworth, the town clerk.
Thank you. Town Clerk?
I've provided the board with a spreadsheet that includes all of the liquor licenses held in town. The ABCC requires that the renewals are completed and signed in the month of November. I've received back all of our liquor licenses with the appropriate paperwork. Breakaway does appear on your spreadsheet. However, Breakaway has requested a separate vote on their liquor license. They have notified us that they are intending to close. However, they're holding an event on New Year's Eve that will extend into, sorry.
That's okay. I'm stealing it.
That will extend into 2023. In talking with the ABCC, the recommendation was that Breakaway complete their paperwork as they would normally do, and that the board would be able to make a motion separate to extend their liquor license for just an hour or so into 2023.
Okay, questions, Maureen?
No questions. I think,
Yeah, we're discussing all the liquor licenses
okay.
except breakaway at this point.
yeah, no, I think town clerk's done a great job putting this list together. It's always nice to see it. I'm all set.
Thank you. Gardner?
No, all of these applicants have been doing well, and I would be accepting or approve of these.
Thank you. Matt?
Nothing, I'm all set.
David?
Thank you, Dan. I'm assuming that if the police had a negative comment on any one of the licensees, that would be brought up. I always am concerned that the police have an opportunity to be heard on the liquor license renewals.
That's correct. We have no issues at this time.
Thank you, Chief.
While you're there, Chief, did you recently have a compliance check?
They are pending.
It's pending still,
Yep,
okay.
we announced them. We usually give them like a week or two ahead of time, and then we do kind of a surprise
Okay,
night. And it'll be coming
okay.
soon.
Up comes.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Stay tuned.
could
Yep.
just add a little bit. We've had instances in years past where an establishment had a matter pending before this board related to either over-serving or a compliance check, and the guidance we've received from ABCC is to treat the renewal separately from any disposition that may come of that the renewal really ought to happen based on the criteria set forth in simply the renewal process, and that the board can take action against an establishment separate from that process. So we could have a meeting 3 days after this hearing for that particular purpose, which we don't have any this year, but.
Thank you. What's the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the application, or we accept the renewal of all but the breakaway on this list to be dealt with separately.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none, thank you. Breakaway, so just to get a handle around it, they're looking for an extension on the new license or the current license? Kathy?
Well, their current license would expire as of midnight on December 31st of 2022. So the ABCC's recommendation is that they be granted a license for 2023 for only a short time. The request by the applicant is people would be exiting by 1:15 a.m. and operations would cease no later than 1:30 a.m. on January 1 of 2023. So they're looking for a license in 2023 for an hour and a half.
Not an extension of the 2022 license for an hour and a half.
Correct, it expires.
And they wouldn't look for a, I'll call it a one-day liquor license for an hour and a half?
One-day liquor licenses are only for a charity.
Okay. So, just so we have a clear understanding.
Right.
Thank you. Questions, Maureen?
It's sad to see them leave. Hopefully, another new business will come in, but I have no problem with extending that. I mean, he's, with the effects of COVID, you know, I think he tried keeping his employees busy, so I'm all in favor of extending it or having the new license till 1:15, 1:30 on January 1st, 2023.
Thank you. David?
No, I agree. Thank you, Dan.
Matt?
A question for you, Mr. Chair, or for the clerk through you, Mr. Chairman. So this is an extension of the 22 license, or is it just an abbreviated version of the 2023?
It's the abbreviated version of the 2023.
Okay. Is there a cost for this short period of time, or is it kind of gratis? There's no-
That would be up to the board. It's an hour and a half. We could maybe
Yeah.
take a calculator and figure that out, but
Yeah, I think based on on what the breakaway has provided through charitable donations, I think that's it's reasonable not to have any cost associated with this extension.
Okay, Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarity, I do know the owner. In 2015, he did hire my band, and for which I received $80, but I do not think that'll affect my judgment in this case. He did take transfer of the license in October of 2015, and in that time had not had a liquor license violation come before the board. So I think he's a responsible business owner. I'm sorry he is leaving. It's a great venue, and Matt's correct. He does do a lot of charitable work for the town and the other social and civic boards and committees in this town. So extending it effectively an hour and 15 minutes because he has to stop serving at 1:15 is certainly acceptable to me.
All right. Okay, what's the will of the board? So we need, the first motion would be for the liquor license, a motion to extend Breakaways all alcoholic common viculars license until January 1st, 2023, when liquor service will end no later than 1:15 a.m. and operations will cease no later than 1:30 a.m.
Mr. Chairman, I move as such with the addition that without cost.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We need a second motion for the entertainment license to extend Breakaways entertainment license until January 1, 2023, when entertainment will end no later than 1:15 a.m. and operations will cease no later than 1:30 a.m. forever.
Same motion with the addition of no cost for the entertainment license.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
So I'll prepare a separate liquor license for them for that 1.5 hours.
Fine.
For the board to sign next time.
Okay,
Thank you.
sounds good, thank you. Number 9, the board will discuss the town manager's proposed goals and objectives for fiscal year 2023. I think we all have a list of potential strategic and major objectives. The last paragraph, goals to be discussed by the select board. Secured DCAM, DCAMM property at the state hospital and begin design of DPW yard. Continue to work with the regional and state partners on water storage and capacity options. Oversee development of community-wide strategic plan, estimated 12/23 completion. Work with staff and stakeholders to finalize the climate action CASPR plan. Initiate the process to evaluate feasibility of an in-house operation of town transfer station. Prepare policy recommendation for the select board on single-use plastic ban in Danvers. Work with state delegation and MBTA to restore bus service in Danvers Square. Work with state officials and local stakeholders to advance Phase 3 of the rail trail expansion. Advance the LaBelle's Grove project from conceptual design into construction design. Beverly Airport or others. So we really have 10, and there really should only be 5 goals, so we have to kind of decide which 5 to endorse or to throw out any, some 5. Now, Beverly Airport, really not a lot of description as what the goal would be. Whoever added that, do they want to make comments? What the goal is?
I think maybe I might have added that, Mr. Chairman, for
Yep.
Beverly Airport to help the residents to hear their concerns about the airspace, their noise, the pollution. So that would be what I'd want to do.
Okay, so these goals are a year-long goal, and we won't really grade the manager till the end of the year on his accomplishments on these goals, given the fact that our next meeting is going to be devoted to hearing public comment from Danvers residents on the airport. I think we can scratch that if that's okay with you.
That's fine,
Okay, thank you. Beverly Airport's off.
as long as we can hear that, right? They're gonna-
I just said we're going to have a meeting next meeting.
meeting, okay,
Next
good.
meeting, to hear
Thank
from
you.
the residents.
Mr. Chairman, if
Well,
there aren't any others, we can
Yeah, there's
pick
any
your
others?
5.
Yeah, we can pick the 5, I think. We'll go through this individually. Gardner, do you want to pick your 5?
Yep.
And
So-
reasons?
Sure, and if you need me to help keep score, I will.
Yeah.
I'm choosing number 1, secure DCAM property, for the DPW yard. Number 2, continue to work with the regional and state partners on water storage. Number 3, work with state delegation and MBTA to restore the bus service.
I'm sorry,
All the way at the bottom, the last 3 before Beverly Airport.
Yep,
Yep, so MBTA, local stakeholders on the rail trail, and advance LaBelle's Grove. So those would be my 5 choices.
okay, LaBelle's Grove.
Yep.
So you said 1, 2.
I did 5.
And 5 was your?
No, I did 5 of
Oh,
them.
you did
1,
what?
2,
Yep,
and then the last 3 before Beverly Airport.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Matt? You get to pick 5.
Yeah, so if you do the numbers instead of the bullets, so I do 1, 2, 3.
Okay,
The
so.
decam property.
Slow down, Matt. Okay, so you're doing 1, 2, 3?
Yes,
Okay, your other 2?
5
5,
and 8. That's the rail trail.
and you're picking the transfer station?
Yes.
David?
Number one bullet, Dan.
Yes, thank you,
Number 2 bullet.
thank you.
Number 5 bullet. Number 6 bullet.
Thank you. Maureen?
And number 7
Oh, I'm sorry, it's number 7.
Yep.
Okay, I had number 1 is continue to work with regional and state partners on water storage and capacity option.
That's number,
Number 1, that's my number
Well,
1.
that's number 2.
Well, yeah,
It's
but
her
I'm just,
number one.
that's
Yeah,
my
we
number
don't,
1.
I'm interested in these numbers, pick the ones.
All right. And then I'm going to pick initiate the process to evaluate feasibility of the in-house operation of the town transfer station. And then number 3, in my classification would be work with state delegation and MBTA to restore the bus service in Danvers Square. And then I like the number 4, work with staff and stakeholders to finalize the climate action plan. And number 5, work with state officials and stakeholders to advance Phase 3 of the rail trail expansion.
Okay, so, folks keeping track at home, the first one, secure decam property, I didn't say what I vote. My choices are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So number 1, secure decam had 4 votes.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, continue to work with the regional state partners, had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
The third one, strategic plan, which is ongoing, had 3.
I saw
So
2. 2.
2, thank you. Climate action had 2. Town transfer station had 3. Single-use plastics had 2. MBTA bus service, 3. Phase 3, the rail trail had 2.
They had 3, I believe.
Yourself, Maureen, who was the third, was that Matt?
Was there another one on rail trail beside Maureen?
Right here.
Yeah, Matt.
Matt? Well, that's 6 for Matt, so we'll have to review that. Matt, give me your 5 again.
1, 2, and 3,
Yep.
5, 8.
So,
You only had 5 that I counted.
so Matt's with that, so you don't have LaBelle's Grove then?
No.
Okay, so Rail Trail has 3, and LaBelle's Grove, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, got 1, 2, 4.
No, I'm just counting.
Oh, okay.
Number 2 has 5. Number 1 has 4.
Yep.
Transfer station has 3.
Correct.
MBTA has 3.
Yep.
Rail Trail has 3.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there you go. Congratulations, Steve. Did you get them?
My numbers tie out to what you were reading, yes.
Okay, so the objectives and the goals for 2023, secure DCAM property, design DPW, continue to work with the regional and state partners on water, initiate the process to evaluate feasibility of in-house operations transfer station, work with the state delegation and MBTA to restore bus service, and work with state and local stakeholders to advance Phase 3 of the rail trail. Okay.
Great.
All right, thank you, fellow board members.
And can we talk about anything about this?
Yes,
May I?
please.
Thank you. Initiate the process to evaluate the feasibility of in-house operation of the town transfer station. Seems to be taken like one item out of like 5. I mean, I wake up at 4 in the morning thinking that as of July 1st, when our current contract week, there's gonna be rubbish. I was in Paris one time, just once in my life, tried to take a subway from wherever the airport was down to the center of Paris, and there was trash piled in the they go on strike all the time in Paris. That's what the French people do. And I have nightmares about, we have a trash contract, I think, that is going to be expiring June 30th. So I suspect and hope that the feasibility of in-house operation of the transfer station is certainly something to be studied. To initiate it, I'd say, that's part of the agonies that the town manager and the public works department and the board are going to have in trying to figure out what to do with this massive change. It just frightens me. And our taking over the operation, that's just part of it. Seems to me that's part of it. So it's like almost as though the goal is it's not a complete goal. It's like concentrate on the process of dealing with the expiration of the current trash. I go down in the morning, all I do is drive to the YMCA, but driving down Pickering Street, I once saw 31 bags of leaves in front of one house. On Cherry Street, I think it's Cherry Street this morning, I saw a motor vehicle axle. I don't know if it's a car, truck, or a pickup truck. There's an axle in front of somebody's house. I don't know, to be picked up or hoping that someone will want an old axle and come and pick it up and take it home. But just that particular initiative, it seems naked to me and not complete as to describing what the nightmare is and what the management has to do to try to be, you have something to say, I would suspect, Steve?
No, we heard from the Public Works Director, I believe at the last meeting, we have a collection contract and a disposal contract, and this would be related to the short-term extension of the disposal contract that we talked about at the last meeting. And really the goal for this year would be to frame the longer-term trade-offs for town meeting members to seek their support so that we can bring a third party in to give us a recommendation. As we discussed at the last meeting, on paper it looks like the town operation of the transfer station could be very viable. We talked about a hurricane's cone of uncertainty. There's a scenario where operation of the transfer station turns a profit. There's a scenario where we struggle to attract the tonnage that we need to make a go of operating a facility like that. So there are parties out there who can come in and help us to make an informed decision in terms of whether that makes sense or not. We know from the current provider, they're only looking at 5-year contracts at this point. If this were to be successful, if town meeting were to be supportive of this, that would give us the first year or two to really answer that question. And then if town meeting decided they wanted to pursue something like that, it would provide us with the time we would need to ramp up and step into a service like that. Generally speaking, we don't try to get into businesses that the private sector does well. But as was pointed out at the last meeting, and as you alluded to, this is an expensive service, and we're not unique in facing considerably higher costs than any of us faced when we were negotiating these contracts. In our case, close to 20 years ago. So, David Lane and I are comfortable with this. The direction from the board to pursue this, we're comfortable with that, and it gives us something to work on going into town meeting.
Dan?
Yes.
May I also ask, if possible, at the next meeting, could there be like a financial summary of just what it is, what it costs, what is the benefit of the town kind of leasing back what are the numbers? Maybe I'll just not.
Part of what we can explain the current situation. I would be hesitant to project numbers. That's part of the reason we're looking at an analysis, is so that we have a third party check the assumptions we're making, look at the current operation there, and give us some guidance in terms of what the range of outcomes might be for us to pursue.
If I may, David, I think to get a explanation of the current contract will not be beneficial because they're still negotiating. They're looking at the transfer station as an option. So we're just giving the manager and David the support so they can go forwards. And I'm sure we'll hear from David Lane when it's appropriate to discuss what the new contracts are.
Certainly as part of the budget process, there'll be an in-depth overview.
Anything else, David?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, Matt, any questions?
Well, just to expand on what Dave is trying to get at, I think it's the trash, the operation of the transfer station is just one component of what needs to be determined in terms of
Correct.
The contract.
Yep, okay.
And then just, I'm not sure about restoring the bus service. That's kind of something that it's kind of a nice to have, not something that we have to have necessarily. And it's based on the MBTA makes that final determination. And
Correct, yeah.
we can try to provide supporting information that would have encourage them to take a second look at this. But I know from taking the bus myself to Salem Depot back when that was a thing, there was very low ridership. And so when you look at other communities, they have a much greater need. So I'm not sure that might not be energy well expanded on in terms of some of these other things. I'm more in favor of having the water shortage. That really, for me, is a number one, because based on what we've seen this past season with level 6 restrictions, we can expect to see those again. Not necessarily every year, but there's certainly a situation that should be a concern for everyone. And I think when it talks about regional, when I see Salem, residents in Salem freely watering their lawns in the middle of the day, why Danvers can't even use water at all outside to even water vegetables. It's a dichotomy, I think. So I don't know if are we going to rank these based on 1 through 5 on our.
No, we picked 5, and those are the 5 goals. We're not ranking them.
Okay, so we'll leave that up to town management.
It'd be up to town
determine,
manager.
Where efforts should be expended.
Yep, and I think I don't disagree with you on MBTA. I don't think that's a goal that's achievable, to be honest with you, but let's make the effort. I'll support the work that is needed to hopefully make it work. Daniel, any comments?
No, I think that I understand everybody has specific things. Some of the ones I actually proposed didn't make the list, and I'm fine with that.
Yep.
These are the 5 goals. They'll be weighted, and we'll look at the success or the opportunity for success, weigh it against the opportunity for success. You're right. If we spend all the efforts we can to try to get bus service and it stopped at legislation, as long as we took our best efforts, that's what we'll evaluate on.
Yep.
There are some things out of our control. Same thing with water. Salem versus Danvers is pretty straightforward. It's capacity. And the reservoir, over in Putnamville, much larger than our capacity to draw. And so, yes, Salem, and I'm thinking Beverly, but their opportunity to store more water has allowed for them to forego some of the things that we've had to been forced to put in check. So there are going to be limits to what we can achieve for that one as well. But it's more, did the town manager put in the best effort to get it done, and how do we rank his efforts on those 5?
Thank you. Maureen?
I'm going to elaborate on David, too. I want to see numbers, too. I think this is going to be a big expense, a big conversation. We need to do a lot of homework on this town transfer station. We don't want it to hit us in the face. It's going to be coming here quick. So I'd like to see cost and, what David had said.
Dan, I think that
Yes.
I may be overstated, and I think you cleared it up, Dan, that the feasibility of the town running the transfer station is something to be needed to know in terms of negotiating further for the rest of the thing. So
Correct.
I think I might have jumbled things up in my comments.
No,
and
no, no,
didn't
that's-
mean
Yeah, but
to.
just some
Good
data
question.
so we can see,
As the manager said, during the budget hearing, we'll be
Yep.
getting some numbers.
Mhm.
Okay? So we're all set. Thank you all for your input, and the town manager has his goals set up for him.
Thank you.
The board will vote to confirm the appointment of the Director of Finance and Administration to the Danvers Retirement Board. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not a typo. You had an identical agenda item several months ago appointing the town manager to the retirement board. You received a memorandum in your packets from me describing a process we've gone through in the last few months. Our longtime retirement manager, Susan Little, announced that she will be retiring next September, so a little less than a year from now. She gave the retirement board and the town ample lead time so that we could work on a succession plan. She fills a critical role for the town, engaging with PURAC, which is the entity that oversees mass retirement systems, and also is the face of the office, interacting with retirees and employees who are thinking about retirement. So we wanted to make sure that we had a lot of lead time. In the process of updating that job description, based on some feedback from PURAC, which reviewed the job description, we've made some tweaks to that job description based on MGL Chapter 32B, and consequently, we're coming back with a recommendation that the finance director be seated on that board rather than me, which is actually sort of full circle. Lenny Marshall served in that capacity for many years. At his retirement, the town accountant took the seat, which is one of the statutory seats. Wayne, for many years, appointed himself to the board, but in order to be more aligned with our historic model, which has been in place for really, at least 80 years, as best we can tell, the recommendation, I'd like to resign my seat and have the board put the finance director on in my place. He has been overseeing the day-to-day operations of the office since he started, so he's very knowledgeable, and really, as a member of that board, he and the chair, Joe Collins, will continue to oversee the office, but more importantly, PURAC will be more satisfied with that setup, and it is more consistent with a lot of the local retirement systems in other communities. And I've had conversations with some of my peers in those communities, and they agree this is a model that is more consistent with what PURAC is looking for. So either of us would be happy to take any questions, but I believe between that and the memo, that kind of sums up the situation.
So if I may, if we could have a motion for the select board to appoint the town's Director of Administration and Finance, Rodney Conley, as their representative to the board for a 3-year term effective as of December 6, 2022, tonight. He goes right on the payroll, to replace the town manager.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Gardner?
I'm all set.
Good. Maureen?
No, good luck, Rodney. Thank you.
David?
Yes.
All set. And Matt, any comments?
No comments.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you. Congratulations, Rodney.
I believe I've been the shortest-serving member of the Danvers Retirement Board, and serendipitously, I managed to avoid having to do any of the mandatory trainings because I was only on for 4 months. So good luck, Rodney.
All right, Town manager will report to the board on various items of interest. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple items tonight. First, you received in your packets a draft copy of the FY24 budget goals and objectives. It's a relatively new document. It's a repackaged version of a long-time document, but as the town was preparing to apply for the Government Finance Office Association's budget award, one of the things they wanted to see were goals that were reviewed each year as part of the budget process. So the bottom half of the first page and all of the second page are standing language that we've included for many years. The three goals at the top, we're not looking for action tonight, but based on the very preliminary review of some of the department budgets and conversations with the schools, these are some goals that we would be recommending consideration. Normally, we provide a copy of this as well to the school committee and the library trustees so that they have a chance to review this. But we would be coming back on the 20th looking for the board to amend or approve these goals. And I'll just read the three goals that we identified that really I think are going to shape the FY24 budget process are funding the anticipated increase to trash and recycling costs by balancing cost versus service, as well as investigating the long-term future of the transfer station, which is consistent with the vote that the board just took in terms of the goals for the year. Second is to work to develop both a short and long-term strategy to address rising costs associated with special education in the Danvers public school system. And then third is absorbing the impacts of inflation on goods and services in a way that looks at both current costs and projected trend over the next fiscal year. So as we start to refine these budgets, these are really kind of three key issues that are going to emerge and affect a lot of the decision-making that the boards and committees will have to do as the process moves forward. So between now and the next meeting, if members have questions or want to discuss these goals or ideas that they have, please don't hesitate to reach out. The plan would be to share this draft with the other boards and with the trustees and the school committee so that they can have a chance to review it as well.
All right, so we'll take it home. This is our homework for the next meeting.
This is your homework for the next meeting.
Any questions or thoughts, please contact the manager.
Second, I wanted to report I had a chance today. I was invited by the Lieutenant Governor to attend the final, sort of the capstone of the Community Compact Program, which was an initiative that Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito launched when they took office. It was a concept where the state wanted to engage with towns and cities to identify best practices and small-scale grants that were nimble and responsive and could be used to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of local government. To say that it's been a success is an understatement. In the 8 years that Governor Baker was in office, in partnership with the legislature, they budgeted and awarded more than $65 million in compact grants to over 1,400 applications. And every town and city in the Commonwealth received at least one of these grants. Danvers was invited today because the work that we're doing in regional IT is becoming a model that other parts of the state are starting to look at, and the governor's office wanted us to be there to share some of what we've accomplished in the last few years. So I had prepared remarks, and I wanted to share some of what we talked about today because after the presentation, a number of other communities came up and wanted to know more about what we're doing. But since 2015, the town has received $750,000 in community compact grants. That's covered things ranging from our first comp and class study in 2017 to a regional transportation vision, which was really kind of the foundation for the Salem Skipper program that Salem was able to launch when we worked with MAPC to do that. But really IT is where we've had the best bang for our buck. The Community Compact program has funded part of the fiber network, which now connects 7 municipalities on the North Shore. It funded the regional IT strategic plan that resulted in the creation of the North Shore IT Collaborative, which is a collaborative. Danvers is the lead community, but we partnered with Wenham, Hamilton, Topsfield, Manchester by the Sea, Essex, and Middleton. And with Colby Cousins working with Brian Luther from MAPC has spearheaded that. But with the creation of the fiber network, it's allowed us to consolidate services like disaster recovery, backup, shared help desk, bulk purchasing, and most recently cybersecurity. The state has paid particular interest in the work that we've done with cybersecurity, and the solution that the collaborative came up with, which was again supported by the Compact program, put in place a cybersecurity network that cost collectively about a third of what the towns would have had to pay individually for the same level of security, and makes us fully compliant with new cybersecurity insurance requirements that Maya is rolling out this year. So it's really exciting to be there and to brag a little bit about the work that we're doing on the North Shore. And I just wanted to share that because I think it's nice. We know that the work has progressed, and it's unique, and people have noticed. So that was really rewarding to be invited to that today. And then lastly, I just wanted to say, despite the weather, the Winter Wonderland this weekend, which was spread across Endicott Park, the downtown and Plains Park, was very well attended. Spent several, I know Mr. Conley was there with his kids, but they were in and out before we got there. But despite the rain, there were crafts and caroling and snacks and face painting and a lot of activities at Endicott Park. The tree lighting downtown, and then the candy cane hunt at Plains Park. And I believe the downtown, I was told anecdotally by staff, they had never seen so many middle schoolers and teenagers hunting for candy canes, and I believe the location probably had a lot to do with that, because they didn't need a ride from mom or dad to get to Endicott Park. They just came down to the park. So it was different. I think the volunteers and staff learned a lot of lessons this year about ways to improve it. But a thank you to Mary Beth Very, to Deep, to staff, and to the volunteers who worked a long time to put that together. So I think that's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have
Excuse
a-
me,
Yes, please.
Steve, can you just update us on like what's happening in the town with all the construction, all the the vacant building, what's the work that's being done? Just an overview of what's happening within the town. Danvers Hardware.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you
Nick's-
had a
Nick's
specific.
Salon, it seems like it's, on Maple Street, it's vacant. What's the status of that?
So yeah, I'll
If you know, thank you.
I know enough to be dangerous.
Okay.
So the Maple Square project, which was the large project that came out of the zoning update in 2020, which was approved in June by the planning board. I believe demolition should be starting before the end of the year. We're already, the fire department has been doing some practice on some of those buildings, which is usually a sign that demolition is imminent. That project the financing, that's a large enough project that I don't believe the economic volatility has impacted them. Our understanding is they plan to, it's full speed ahead. That'll be an 18 to 24 month project once they get going. The hardware store, a purchase and sale was completed. Staff in the planning department had preliminary conversations with that developer. It's a smaller developer at this point. I believe it's on pause, so we don't have an update at this point from the new owner of that building. 44 Maple, which was the mixed use right there on Maple Street. Again, this board provided the right-of-way access to do the scaffolding work to get the project going. There was a lot of activity to get the shell of the building up. In terms of when the build-out, I think we would need to follow up with the owner to find out if they have a new timeline in that regard. I understand Modern Butcher is close to moving into the vacant Dunkin' right downtown. And if you drive up and down High Street, work is well underway on Epatzi's relocation from their current location down to the old Friendlies, past the cemetery. So I know that the planning department has had a lot of discussion with interested property owners on sections of High Street. So I think we're seeing, I think Maple Square is going to be the first large project. There's been a lot of sort of behind the scenes activity in terms of smaller projects being discussed. And if you had specific questions, we'd love to schedule time to sort of dig into those with you.
Any other questions for the manager? Hearing none, can we have a motion on the consent calendar?
I move we accept the rather sizable consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Before we go to the select board, on the back, select board notes and reminders, I just want to mention that we have our community Christmas party Tuesday, December 13th, 5 to 7 at Berry Tavern. We have a meeting on December 20th, in which we're going to invite the public for comment on the airport to put together a constructive criticism list, if you will, for Aaron Henry to bring to the Airport Commission and the City of Beverly as they search for a new director. The next meeting in January is a little confusing, because this says January 6th, which I believe is a Friday, and on a draft, it says it's the 17th.
Thursday, Friday?
Can somebody clarify that?
I believe the 6th is a typo, and the, unless the clerk has,
Well,
unless the clerk has items that are timely on the 3rd, I think the recommendation is that we not hold the meeting on the 3rd unless it becomes necessary, and aim to have a meeting on the 17th instead.
so you think we can get our business done in one meeting on January?
We don't normally meet. It's generally a coin toss whether we meet at the second meeting in December or the first meeting in January. So because we have the meeting scheduled for 12/20.
Yep.
If anything comes in, that we could certainly put other things on that agenda, and then I think we'd be okay until the 17th.
Okay, so the meeting in January is the 17th. So corrected. Okay, thank you. Selectmen's new business updates, closing comments. Maureen?
I attended Danvers Housing Authority, going over the budgets. They seem to, Cindy Dunn and her group does a fabulous job making sure that the money's protected with banks having FDIC insurance and DIF insurance. We want to make sure that all monies are protected for the town, and she did a good job with moving some things around. And other than that, I'll let Matt talk about the rail trail. That's all I have.
Thank you. David?
Thank you, Dan. The meetings of the Human Rights and Inclusion Commission are, of course, a public meeting. The next one, I think, is December 17th. It will be in this room, and all are welcome. And the other thing I wanted to say is people my age sometimes stay home and get lonely. In Danvers, between the Senior Center and the Danvers Recreation Department and the Danvers Community YMCA, those are the three that immediately come to my mind. There's no reason for you to stay home and feel lonely. You can if you want, but I wish you wouldn't do that. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Gardner?
No, I have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt?
Sure, thank you. So, Ms. Bernard mentioned the rail trail. So there's two active projects on the rail trail today. So the first one is the new wooden timber bridge over Beaver Brook near the YMCA. That bridge has been completed. That's on the westward expansion. It's the bridge is between Hobart Street and Beaver Park Road. And if people are in the area, they're welcome to get out there. That's the westward extension that will go from the existing north-south trail out to the Middleton line. Middleton has completed their trail right up to the town line behind the Essex Tech. So one of the goals that was mentioned earlier this evening was the Phase 2, which is from Nichols Street out to Kirkbride Drive. That goes through the highway corridor with Route 1 and Route 95, and that's part of a mass DOT initiative from District 4, and they have a lot of experience with working with rail trails. If you go up to Newburyport or to Salisbury, you'll see kind of the gold standard for rail trails. The second project on the rail trail currently is just north of Wenham Street, across the street from Agway, up from Wenham Street to Moore Woods, which is a couple hundred yards. That area, for regular users, know that that's a very wet area. It's kind of a bowl-shaped segment of the trail where water collects, and it gets very muddy in there. So the town's DPW is in there now, and they're going to correct the drainage issue and also raise the trail with riprap and then replace with new stone dust. So that portion of the trail is actually closed, and it will be for the rest of this month. There is, for people that kind of are adventurous, they can access the trail through Moore Woods. There's a trail that brings you out to Locust Street. But currently, there's going to be, there's a lot of equipment in there, so not really safe for users to try to traverse that area. And if you go out to the town, to the rail trail website, it's danversrailtrail.org. There'll be updates there and explanations about the progress of that work. And it's a long time coming. Volunteers have tried to correct that in the past, and it really requires heavy equipment to get in there. The other item that we're interested in is the Peaker Power Plant over on Pulaski Street in Peabody. You may be familiar with that. There was actually a public meeting here in this room back in the summer of 2021, where MEMLAC, which is the power consortium that's building this new plant, came and provided, we did a Q&A with the board and also with the members of the public. There's still issues with the sign-off on the health impact of that plant. It burns diesel and gas, and there's considerable concern about people that live in the immediate area about the exhaust from that plant impacting people including people in Danvers, North Shore Ave, Jacobs Ave, neighborhoods over on Endicott Street. So they're having a public hearing tomorrow night at the Peabody Senior Center, which is on Central Street in Peabody. And the members of the public will be afforded the ability to make comments if they're familiar with the project and they have concerns. So that's tomorrow night, December 7th at 7 p.m. And other than that, I know we have another meeting before Christmas, but I wish everyone happy holidays, stay safe, get your flu shot, get your second booster, and your friends and family will thank you for that. So thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Matt. David, is there a menorah lighting plan this year? Hanukkah is the 18th or 19th?
I'm sure we're going to have a menorah lighting down by the,
I just haven't heard anything about it.
no, well, you will.
Thank you. Good. Excuse me? Very good, okay. I'll stay tuned. Thank you. Please remember veterans and thank a veteran when you see them. And if there's no other business that come before the board, meeting is adjourned. Good night, Danvers.